Good afternoon. My name is Joe Phelan. It's an honor to be here with the chairman, with Dr. Gargan, and all of you on World Water Day. So what I'm going to do is, I think we've set out the scale of the problem very well. We've heard that from Mr. Kundan. What I'm going to do is I'm going to speak about the role of business in this and where business can be, how business is affected and where it can be a positive actor for bringing solutions. And I'm going to focus on steps that are being taken and can be taken. So just very quickly, my organization is called the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. I lead its work in India. Our mission is to create conditions where more sustainable companies are more successful. We have a vision of a world in 2050 where 9 billion people live well and live within the limits of the planet. And one slice of that is 1.6 billion people in India surviving on only 1,000 billion cubic meters of water per person. That requires a lot of innovation on the governance side, an improvement, and a lot of innovation on the incentive side and the technology side. We're a global organization. We work with about 200 companies. We're business-led, and those companies include 10 Indian majors, companies like the Aditya Birla Group, Godrej, Infosys, ITC, Jain Irrigation, Mahindra Group, the Tata Group, and so on. So the first thing in this conversation about water is that all companies depend upon and impact on water. And this diagram shows that. And some companies are water providers, but all companies are water users, either in their processes, so if they are using it to cool operations or to clean, or as part of their overall manufacturing processes, or they're just using it as consumption, as consumers, so all the employees and the office. All companies use water and all companies put out water too. So they have an impact. And what this diagram shows as well is that the ecosystems are essential, and the interplay of these ecosystems with companies is vital, and it's really important to understand that. It's also important to understand that companies will have water sensitivities in their value chain, either upstream, where farmers are growing cotton or crops for food or garment manufacture, or downstream, where customers may want to use washing machines or running water to be able to deploy and employ the products and services that you sell. So water's essential for all businesses, and it's always been assumed that companies have been designed to run on the assumption that water is free or very cheap and plentiful, and that's changing. So as that changes, and as we move into a water stress scenario, that presents risks for businesses. And this set of risks here came out in a short CEO guide that we launched yesterday in Brasilia at World Water Week. So as we experience water stress, which we are feeling in India, businesses begin to feel risks and are exposed to risk of increased regulation, increase in prices, exposure to litigation, stakeholder concerns, community conflicts, and all of these are being experienced by companies already in India and have been for some time. A threat to license to operate, brand damage, continuity, shutting down your factory because of the need for water to go to other users, and the inability to grow your operations because you can't get access to more water. So water is a problem for all of us. We're very concerned about it. It's a problem for business too. And through this lens of the business approach to water, it's also important to understand that there are solutions for companies to manage these risks. So depending on what the driver is, whether it's around continuity of operations, employee health and safety, your water supply in water-stressed areas, water efficiency in agriculture, which is very important in India, or climate resilience, there are a different set of solutions. And I'm going to speak about some of those solutions today, including where Indian companies have been working on these. Now, together these set of solutions don't provide all the answers, but they can help companies to become more resilient, become more water efficient, to improve the resilience of the catchment area that they're in, and other water users in their catchment, communities, domestic users, and so and they have a positive role to play.
We've heard about the challenge. I think what's very important to understand is when we see a graph about a chart of the world with red patches and yellow patches, it's actually not any use because, India is red, and that's bad. Well, okay, but there's over 1 billion people here today in this country drinking water, doing business, being educated. So we know that there are many challenges with water in India, but they're very local, and they're always local wherever they are. So it's really important that we get specific data about where the challenges are and what the challenges are. Is it a quality issue? If so, what are the pollutants that are causing problems? Is it an availability issue? If so, what are the right interventions that can improve that availability? Here are 2 charts from something called the India Water Tool, which provide a bit more granularity and which use Government of India data to do that. And I'm going to speak a little bit about that in a minute. Okay, so I think the first thing to get over, the first insight from our work with companies is that water's not valued properly. And this is in 2 ways. It's not valued properly because it's only valued on the price that companies pay for water. That's the perceived cost of water. But it's also not so the true cost of water is not fully factored in, which is all the additional things that you pay for to bring that water to your location, to manage that water, to as an input, and then to treat it, and the energy and so on, and then also to treat it on the way out. So that's the first challenge, and that's an important step, is to understand the true cost of water. And this is from a report we've done on circular water management, and the resources, the links for this are available at the end. The second thing is to understand the true value of water, because as well as these costs, there are costs related to risk and cost of regulation, cost of fines, cost of interruption to your business operations, and even shutting down of your factory. And when you factor all of those in, it becomes possible to then start making the case to invest in better water management inside the fence. Because otherwise, many companies do pay for water, but the return that you get for the investment you make on efficiency will very rarely pay. It's only when you factor in these other risks that you can make a business case that stands up. This slide is about what we're doing with a group of companies in India on circular water management this year. But what I really want to highlight here is that circular water management for us is not just about inside the fence, because many leading companies are already extremely circular inside the fence already. They might be, some of the multinationals we work with, their operations in India are usually the most water efficient they have in any location in the world. The quality of engineering is so high, the pressure on water is there, that they're very, very water efficient. One piece of work that we've begun is working with 2 state governments to look at the idea of circular water management more at a system level. So again, Mr. Kundan was talking about industrial water, agricultural water, and domestic water, each having different standards. And once you understand that water never goes away, you just need to treat it right and put it to the right use, then cities become not only an enormous sponge for water, but also potentially an enormous source of water. The outputs from cities can go into industrial water use or agricultural water use. So we're partnering especially with the state of Karnataka to explore ways to get more circularity into the water system at a state level, not only within industry, but across sectors. Okay. I talked about the India Water Tool, and I encourage all of you to have a look at this. Has anybody here seen the India Water Tool? If you've ever seen the India Water Tool, please put your hand up. Okay, so I'm glad I came. So it's www.indiawatertool.in, and it's the only tool like this in the world. It was made in India through a partnership between a lot of companies and some different government departments, where Government of India data was made available in a user-friendly way, tagged to locations across India. It's 14 sets of data on water quality and availability, and it's open for anyone to use, but it's designed for companies. So a company like ONGC could put in its 280 locations in India with a lat and long or with a lookup, and run a report on, across those sites, where are the water risks greatest, and what's the nature of those water risks. So it provides a first level screening so that any company can see, okay, across their locations, these 15 sites are the ones that we need to put most attention into. And then you need to go on and do further investigations. It's a unique example of constructive, responsible collaboration between business and government for better water management and better water governance. So please have a look at it. I should also tell you that we're going to be launching version, so it says 2017, we're going to be launching version 3 in the first half of this year, which brings a lot more data. It's starting to bring in business data from catchment level, much more detailed hydrological studies, so we want to populate that and we'll have a user-generated layer. But also it brings in watershed demarcations, catchment level demarcations, and also aquifer type and rock type, so that companies, as well as seeing where their risks are, or anyone can see what kinds of interventions might be most appropriate according to the rock type and the aquifer type and so on. Okay, indiawatertool.in. The next area I'm going to tell you about is in water smart agriculture. And if you're concerned about water in India, then you need to find ways to work with agriculture, whether you're in agriculture or not. And the group of companies that we're working with on water smart agriculture include Ambuja Cement, who are in no way an agriculture company, but they recognize that a 10% improvement in agricultural efficiency is equal to a 70 or 80% improvement in industrial efficiency, and there's very big gains to have. Also, if they make those gains, not only does that improve water availability for other users in the watershed, but it has a big impact on farmer incomes as well. So we did an evaluation of different interventions that companies were making into water efficiency in agriculture to look at what the actual returns were on water efficiency, on yield for farmers, and also on CO2 emissions. We also catalogued other benefits so that companies can look and evaluate which kind of intervention should I be making in the watersheds where I am. This has led to some other trials of different technologies and so on, but I'm not going to spend time on that now. These are the different kinds of interventions that we evaluated. Okay, there was some talk this morning, okay, about green infrastructure. So I just want to tell you, this is another website. This is called NI4Biz, ni4biz.org. This is a tool for companies about natural infrastructure. So it's got a set of case studies of business using natural infrastructure. 4 of them are from India. This is things like green roofs to cool your building, rather than AC. Mangroves are often used. There's some natural thorny brambles and bamboos that are used to keep elephants away from tea gardens in Assam, again, that help to restore watersheds and so on, rather than grey infrastructure. I think the most useful part of this is it gives you a decision support tool so you can evaluate the cost benefit of green infrastructure versus grey infrastructure on each project that you're trying to assess, so that you can weigh it up. There are challenges with it. Sometimes it uses more land, but often it's just as effective in its primary aim, so cleaning water, for example, but has a lot of other co-benefits. Often it and usually it has much less operating costs. So that's ni4biz.org. Okay. This is the last thing. So again, Mr. Kundan was saying about water and sanitation being linked, the human right of safe access to drinking water, sanitation and hygiene. And this is a really important word in here, is about safe. As a business group, we think that we're sure that the first priority for companies in the water space is to provide safe access to water, sanitation and hygiene for every employee in every location while they're at work. And we kind of think like that's non-negotiable. So we've developed a tool for companies to do that. You make a commitment, within 3 years we'll ensure, and then it's just a very simple checklist that you can run through your normal systems. A questionnaire you can send out to your different sites, and where you're not meeting the standard, you can make some very cheap interventions, and by the end of the process, you can be sure that every one of your employees, never mind what you're doing in the community, which will very often be very good, but you want to be sure that all your employees from 9 to 5, Swachh Bharat happens, from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, all your employees are covered. And so this is a very important thing. We found, if I'm honest, I'm disappointed. We've got about 48 signatories. We're really pushing for 50. I hope that ONGC will become our 50th. And there's been a lot of implementation in India. But if I'm honest, I'm kind of disappointed it's not 500, because I think that it is a basic standard that companies should sign up to. Okay, lastly, I'm just going to let you know about some resources. If you're interested in business and water and how businesses think about or can bring issues like water into the boardroom and into different systems, then these publications may be useful for you. So yesterday in Brazil, we launched the CEO Guide to Water. I really commend it to you. It sets out the business case and steps companies can take very simply. The publication next to it was launched in February in the US. This is guidelines for how to integrate non-financial data, including issues like water, into a company's enterprise risk management framework. Because while in our sustainability reports we might put water as a big priority, in our legal filings companies very often don't put water in, and we wanted to understand why. And there isn't enough data, there aren't enough, we're not speaking the right language and working with the right systems. So by working with enterprise risk management function of companies, we've been able to understand that a bit more and make some recommendations for how to do it. Next to that is this report that was based on Indian practice, but is for anywhere in the world that's water stressed, about how you can work with the agricultural sector to improve water efficiency. And nearest to me is this business guide to circular water management, where some of this stuff about valuation is. This is my colleague Deepa Mago, who couldn't be here today, but she leads this work, and that's her contact details up there. If you have any questions later on, I'd be happy to take them. Thank you very much.